So if you have the need to replace a ball joint, especially a lower ball joint, and you have two options available, some of them are designed like this, where there is no castle nut and no cotter pin. Okay. That is something you should avoid at all costs, and especially I've had really bad luck with Mevotech, uh, Mevotech. It's not a good brand. They're all over Rock Auto. It's I had an incident tonight with my '96 Ford Thunderbird where I installed about 3 years ago, and I've only put about 20,000 miles on these ball joints. So it was Mevotech. This is again for a '96 Ford Thunderbird. Mevotech GK 87, 84 or 77. And I just had an incident. I was driving down a residential road and the nut worked its way off. There is no castle nut. So over the course of 3 years, it just turned and turned and turned and worked its way off. I found it in the street about 30 feet back. The whole car came to a screeching halt, and basically the control arm grinded into the inside of the rim on the front, and it was a pretty horrible situation. Luckily, it wasn't on a highway. We're talking about life or death here. I mean, I installed those 3 years ago, and I torqued those things with a cheater bar, whatever you want to call it, a pry bar, cheater bar. I installed those things to the utmost tightness that it could possibly withstand without snapping. I mean, I was not a slouch on tightening those things. Anyways, here's another style. Regardless of the brand, this has the castle nut and a cotter pin that will prevent the nut from backing out. Okay, so I made a mistake in ordering, this is 3 years ago, in ordering these Mevotech ones without the castle nut and cotter pin setup. And it could seriously cost you your life. This is one of the more serious videos I've ever made on safety situations. They still sell this kind of thing. And even if you crank it on there, like there's no tomorrow, with a giant ratchet bar, or cheater bar, whatever, fast forward 3 years and about 20,000 miles. I did do circle drag races with that car at the Colorado International Speedway this summer. But we're talking about a situation that is avoidable. We're talking about a situation that is a good, safe design versus an unsafe, dangerous design. So do not buy a ball joint and that is designed like this. It can, over time, it can work this nut off and it will detach when you are driving, and the whole wheel will basically collapse into the hub in the front, and then the control arm will scrape on the inside of the rim. And I mean, if you're on a highway going 70 or 80, I mean, you can seriously wipe out and hit a wall and die. It is that serious. Mevotech is a brand to be avoided at all costs. This is not the first time I've ran into drama with this company. And this is not the only company that makes this style, but it's particularly important on the Ford Thunderbird that I own, a '96 Ford Thunderbird, because there's always tension pushing up on the nut. That's how that suspension's set up. The ball joints are pressed in upwards, and then the whole control arm's always pushing up. So as time goes by, it's always pushing up, and then fast forward 3 years and 20,000 miles, and the whole nut starts loosening. And I swear, I'm pretty tuned into mechanical stuff. I didn't feel any weird play in the car. I didn't hear any weird noises. There was no warning that this was going to happen. Granted, if I went under there and physically looked at it, I could see that I guess it was loose or backing out, but I had no reason to think anything like that was happening. And I also wanted to say that after 3 years and 20,000 miles, the boot is also completely shot on this Mevotech ball joint. So no more of that. I'm going to try my best to get OEM Ford parts, but this is a serious situation. Like, you don't want to get something without a castle nut and a pin. I mean, it is something that will make you crash. It is something that could paralyze you or make you wreck into another car. So this is serious, and I'm going to wrap up this video as a bit of a rant, but I'm a little shaken up because I've been driving that car on and off for 3 years now. I never had any drama with it, and then all of a sudden, it felt like I was going like 20 or 25. Thank God it wasn't like a highway situation, but it felt like I hit the biggest pothole of like all time. I mean, it rocked the car to the core, and then the horrible screeching and metal to metal. I could put a picture maybe or take a additional video of the actual inside of the rim, because the inside of the rim's all grinded up and screwed up now. It's still holding air, but it's taken a lot of damage. And this was all avoidable if I would have originally installed this style. So some cars, I guess there wouldn't be so much pressure on the nut, but with the Ford Thunderbird setup, it's always, the control arm is always pushing up when the car is sitting in a normal stance. So anything less than this setup, I mean, is just, you're risking your life. All right, that's it.